the squad? It's your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendency Cess, and this is the CBA Reckoning from CessTalksSports and BeWise PoliSports Tea Time. Let's get into it. The cheers are loud. The cameras are on. The jerseys flying off the shelves like hotcakes. The message is loud and clear. This is who they want front and center. But here's what they hope you don't peep. While one face is being spotlighted on every screen, in every ad, and opening every broadcast, the black women who built this league, who carried it on their backs when nobody else showed up, they're being erased. Strategically, economically, politically. This ain't just about sports. It's labor. It's power. It's about what happens when 70% of a professional league is black women, but the face they keep pushing looks nothing like the majority. It's about media machines, sanitized branding, and corporate money colliding with one of the most important labor fights in WNBA history. And guess who's caught the crossfire? The same black women who made this league worth watching. Ride with me is Political Lil, always breaking it down, always asking the questions these leagues don't want you to ask. This episode, we laying it all out. The disrespect, the silence, the system that profits from black women's work, then tries to cut them out the picture. Welcome to the CBA Reckoning, where we take the contracts, the contradictions, and the erasure they don't want us to name, but we naming it anyway. Pull up, fam. This ain't a game. Let's talk labor. Let's talk equity. Let's talk truth. You watch the CessTalksSports, BeWise, PoliSports Tea Time. Let's get to work.
Thanks, Auntie. Let's get right into the investigative series by laying out the what is going on in the WNBA as we speak. In today's episode, Changing Faces, how the WNBA is erasing black women to court conservative dollars. We're peeling back the layers of what is really happening on the court and, of course, behind the curtain. This isn't just about who gets camera time. This is about who gets paid, who gets pushed, and who gets positioned to lead or left behind. We're talking image, we're talking investment, and we're talking about a league that's trying to rewrite its story. You know, without the women who wrote the first chapter. Coming up, we're going to break down the corporate rebranding of the WNBA and why it's centering whiteness in a black-built league, how this connects to broader shifts in American politics and corporate fear of the woke backlash, and what it means for the players, especially black women, now heading into the most important CBA fight of their careers. You're listening to the CBA Reckoning with CessTalksSports and BeWise PoliSports, and it's time to spill the tea. So let's get into it.
The crowd's going wild. The commentators out of breath trying to keep up, and the jersey breaking records before the fourth quarter even ends. But while the cameras zoom in on the anointed face of the league, that your MVP is out here dropping 25 and 15. He can't even get a damn headline. Let's be clear, fam. This ain't hate. It's a pattern. Because when 70% of your league is powered by black women, but the spotlight, the storylines, and the sponsorship checks keep getting rerouted, that's not coincidence. That's not oversight. That's a play. And the league's running it like clockwork. That ain't just a shift in marketing. It's a shift in values. One rooted in race and capitalism and curated perception for conservative wallets. And if we don't call it what it is, erasure, then we're playing right into the same game that's been played on black labor for generations. So welcome, fam. Today we're breaking down the truth behind the WNBA's labor fight and the strategic moves being made, reshape who gets seen, who gets paid, and who gets pushed out. This episode, Changing the Face, how the WNBA is erasing black women to court conservative dollars, because this ain't just about buckets and branding. It's about who gets to lead, who gets to last, and who's being locked out when race, revenue, and representation collide.
That part says, this is what happens when a league built by black women tries to repackage itself for corporate comfort. We're seeing a rebranding, not based on who's dominant, but on who's deemed digestible. And in that shift, black women are being sidelined, not by a lack of talent, but by a calculated play for a different audience. Let's be real. This isn't a league marketing choice. It's a political realignment. The WNBA sees where the big conservative dollar ads are. It sees how DEI backlash has reshaped boardroom strategy. And instead of doubling down on the culture that carried them, they're reshaping the narrative. But when you erase the very backbone of your labor force to court conservative dollars, you risk repeating the same violent economics that undervalue black women in every other industry. And now, leading into a critical CBA renegotiation, that erasure isn't just cultural, it's economic. So yeah, we're talking sports today, but we're also talking labor. We're talking image warfare. We're talking about the cost of Black excellence when it doesn't fit white-friendly packaging.
Let's take it back because this ain't new. The WNBA was founded in 1996, and from day one, Black women were the engine, the face, and the heart. Lisa Leslie was dunking before TikTok even existed. Tina Thompson showed up with lipstick and a jump shot to stay lethal. Cynthia Cooper ran off 4 straight chips before half the media could even pronounce her name. And Cheryl Swoops, Nike's first ever women's basketball signee, first, period. But let's talk about how they were marketed. They were sold as tough, as grinders, as serious hoopers, but rarely as glamorous, rarely as America's sweethearts. Now fast forward. Today's media push centers white athletes, not the most dominant, not the most decorated, not the vets who built this, but the ones who fit a mold, safe, relatable, and brand neutral. This ain't about players beefing, it's about the system. Because history stays on repeat. Black women build the blueprint, and somehow it only becomes profitable when someone else gets handed the credit or the cover.
That's exactly it. We need to talk about how legacy has been rewritten. The WNBA didn't just survive those early lean years. It thrived because Black women made it relevant. The stats don't lie. Today, Black women still dominate in minutes played, points scored, and defensive impact. They are the product, but they're being told quietly and through omission that they're not the brand. We heard legends like Dawn Staley say it out loud. We built this league when nobody cared. And now that it's gaining national attention and billion-dollar partnerships, Black women are being strategically repositioned. That's why the CBA negotiation isn't about pay raises. It's about the politics of who gets centered and who gets sacrificed for profit. And let me say this, when your labor builds the league, but your image is pushed to the background, that's economic violence. That's why we're calling it a reckoning, because that is what it is.
Let's talk marketing and what it really means when the image of your league starts shifting, even though the labor force stays the same. At the top of the season, the GM player poll dropped. 12 plus front offices named Caitlin Clark the player they most want to start a franchise with. Not the most dominant at her position, not the most dominant in the league, but still the most televised, most sponsored, most amplified. Let that sink in. She's not the best, but she's the most visible. And that ain't bias. That's not barbershop bias. That's front office strategy with the gaslighting playbook in hand. When we talk about a marketing shift, we're talking about screen time as currency. Visibility is value. Let's compare A'ja Wilson, reigning MVP, two-time champ, two-time defensive player of the year, shows up in less than half of nationally aired league promos. Nafisa Collier, leading the league in scoring early in the season, damn near invisible on ESPN. Chelsea Gray, elite floor general, finals MVP, top-tier basketball IQ, cut out a promo after promo. Meanwhile, one white player is everywhere. Gatorade, State Farm, Nike, Hulu, full campaign rollout. And this is happening during a CBA fight, while Black women are fighting for visibility, labor equity, and representation on and off the court.
Cess, what we're witnessing is a mega faction of women's basketball. It's the watering down of the game's cultural core, of its Black core, to make it more palatable to mainstream, conservative, risk-adverse brands. That's not about ball. It's about branding. Because when Black women were leading the social justice charge, the league was called too political. Now that there's a white face to front the movement, suddenly it's safe, exciting, and sponsored. This is image laundering dressed up as progress. The WNBA is repackaging as a family product, a clean brand, a patriotic girl next door fairy tale. But let's be clear. The people doing the scoring, the defending, helping in the selling out of arenas, still the same Black women they're repushing to the margins. And that's where the target audience shift comes in. Let's ask the hard question. Is the league moving from being a woke league to a Walmart league? Because if the early 2020s were about visibility, justice, and standing with Black Lives Matter, then this current rebrand feels like a full pivot, not just from politics, but from the very players who made the league worth watching. This isn't just a marketing strategy, it's a cultural betrayal. It's the cost of chasing suburban dollars while sidelining the women who gave the league its soul. And as we head into the CBA negotiations, we need to be asking, who is this league really for? Because when labor is Black, but branding is white, we're not looking at equity. We're looking at exploitation. And let me say this before we move on. When Erasure pays more than excellent, that's a rigged system. This isn't just about commercials or camera angle. It's about who gets positioned to lead the league into the future. If we don't push back now, we risk watching a league built on black brilliance turned into a commodity for everyone but the women who made it matter.
Let's talk about what's really on the table in these negotiations. Labor power. See, the current system is unsustainable. This summer, WNBPA Executive Committee member Elizabeth Williams didn't sugarcoat it. The current system is unsustainable. We're fighting for a fair share of the league's growth. And she meant every word. Because while the league's visibility is blowing up off the work, talent, and consistency of black women, the benefits still ain't being shared right. The math ain't mathing. All-star bonuses still inconsistent. Charter flights still a luxury, not a standard. Maternity protections still incomplete, still failing. This ain't just about paychecks, it's about respect. It's about players who are the product being sidelined when it's time to cash in on the growth they helped create. Because growth without equity, that's just exploitation in a rebranded hoodie. And once again, it's black women being left to fight for crumbs after cooking the whole damn meal.
Let's keep it all the way real. These are not luxuries they're asking for. These are basic working conditions. Charter flight, that's about safety, not status. Salary minimums and playoff bonuses, that's about sustainability, not stardom. But the league is still out here acting like these are wild demands, when in reality, they're just trying to catch up to what the men leagues negotiated years ago. What we're seeing is emotional labor of excellence, where black women not only have to perform on the court, but also have to advocate off of it, build a brand, and defend their humanity. That's not a job description. That's a burnout recipe. And now with the CBA clock just ticking, the players are being clear. Either the league evolves or they opt out of a broken cycle once and for all.
But here's where it gets even more complicated and more rigged. The WNBA doesn't have a single ownership voice. It got three. 42% owned by the WNBA league office, 42% by the NBA, and the remaining 16% private investors who joined after the league raised $75 million in capital back in 2022. They handing out league ownership like Oprah. You get some ownership, and you get some ownership, and you get some ownership. Now compare that to the NBA, where players negotiate with a single unified ownership group. In the WNBA, players are stuck trying to bargain with three separate entities, all with different agendas, priorities, and profit margins. That's not a partnership. That's a tug of war. And guess who's left in the middle holding the rope and feeling the strain? The players, the black and brown women, the ones who built the damn league.
Exactly. You can't demand a 50-50 revenue split like NBA players have when the pot is divided by three separate landlords with three different agendas. One's chasing long-term growth, one's protecting legacy capital, and one's just trying to flip their investment before the next media deal closes. There's no unified vision, no shared incentive structure, and definitely no urgency to make the players full partners. So when we ask why permanent charter flights stall or why salary floors don't rise, it's because those demands are getting passed around the table where no one really owns the outcome. And the real kicker, the labor, the black women who fill the stands, drive the merch, and elevate the product, are sitting there negotiating with a broken megaphone aimed at three boardrooms with conflicting agendas.
Okay, let me say how political would. You can't split the pot evenly when the kitchen's owned by three landlords cooking for different customers. And somehow the players still got to wash all the dishes. See, this ain't just bad structure. This is a labor trap. It slows everything down. It muddies transparency. And it gives everyone just enough distance to dodge real accountability. The WNBPA isn't fighting a unified league. They're fighting a system designed to protect power and profit, not players. A setup that monetizes undervalued labor while making sure no one takes the blame. So yeah, the system's broken, but let's be real. It was built that way on purpose. Let's get into the media game. Because if you've been paying attention, you know, and it ain't just what gets covered. It's how it gets covered. When black players speak up for fair pay, maternity rights, or safe travel, the headlines always hit the same tired tone. They should be grateful. This isn't the NBA. They're making it political. But when a white player says the exact same thing, that's bold, trailblazing, long overdue. This ain't just bias, it's by design. A media machine that paints black labor as demanding while framing white labor as deserving. Now let's talk charter flights. Black players like Asia Wilson, Skylar Diggins-Smith, even Breonna Stewart have been pressing this issue for years. They've been clear. Commercial travel wrecks performance, rest, and safety, but the coverage, minimal, dismissive. Then Caitlin Clark gets drafted, and suddenly charter flights are a top priority. Sports desks scrambling, execs making statements. The issue didn't change. The face of it did.
Exactly. The message to Black women has always been clear. You just be grateful, not great. When they raise legitimate labor concerns, they get labeled as divas, ungrateful, and too political. When Caitlin Clark gets bumped on the screen, it's a national debate. When Angel Reese gets collar choked, the media barely blinks. And let's be clear, this isn't about hating on one individual player. It's about media framing. The same outlets that ignore systemic inequities for years are now pretending to care, only because the issue got a new poster girl. And that's not journalism, that's narrative manipulation. This is a form of gaslighting, telling Black players they're lucky to have a league, telling them to tone it down when they demand more. Meanwhile, white players get applauded for making the same demands, often years later, with none of the blowback.
Black women made the WNBA the most progressive league in American sports. They kneeled, they organized, they led. And they did it while putting up 25 a night, flying commercial, and getting paid less than assistant coaches. But now that media wants a softer, safer story to sell. Those same Black women are being sidelined and silenced. This shift is loud. If you're listening, the justice has been replaced with marketability. And the language says it all. Black women complain. White women trailblaze. That's how media gaslighting works. It takes labor demands from Black athletes and labels them a threat, while rebranding those same demands from white athletes as empowerment.
So here's the truth. You can't erase the labor, the leadership, and the legacy of Black women athletes just because it makes advertisers uncomfortable. You can't praise white players for walking through doors Black women already kicked down. This media double standard is part of the league's power play, and we're not falling for it. The issue isn't who gets the charter flight. It's who had to suffer without one before it was taken seriously. And the WNBA knows it. That's why this CBA moment is so critical. Because if we let the media gaslight Black labor now, we'll be dealing with the fallout for years to come.
Now let's talk about the fans. The ones who showed up before the billion-dollar deals and the primetime slots. We're talking about the DEI fan base, the queer fans, the Black women, the educators, the organizers, the progressives. The ones who turn this league into a movement, not just a product. But lately, the energy shifted, and folks feel it. Scroll through fan Twitter, and it's right there unfiltered. This doesn't feel like my league anymore. The league that marched for Breonna is now vending for brands. Why are the players who led the justice movement being ignored during the biggest media moment of the season? The disconnect is loud, and the league's playing with fire, chasing a new, more conservative market while risking the very base that carried them when nobody else cared. That's not evolution. That's erasure with the marketing budget.
That part. Let's not forget, it was the DEI fan base that kept butts in the seats when the league was still fighting for visibility. They showed up in protest gear. They bought the jerseys. They created the culture. And now that the lights are brighter and the money is bigger, the league seems ready to pivot to a more safe, mainstream, and less politically vocal fan demographic. But here's the thing. You can't grow the game by erasing the very people who built the vibe. The fan base is watching, and they're not silent. They see the framing. They feel the erasure. And they know when a brand is pivoted towards profit and away from principle. The WNBA can't afford to forget. Visibility without values is just performative marketing. And if the soul of the league gets lost in the chase for conservative dollars, the fallout won't just be on the court. It'll be at the box office, in the stands, and across the culture.
Let's stop playing. What we're witnessing in the WNBA right now isn't organic growth. It's a coordinated power play. From labor to marketing to media coverage, it's all part of a deliberate push to shift control away from the Black women who built this league and center a version of the sport that's easier to sell to corporate America. They're calling it rebranding. But let's be real, it's recolonization. A takeover of a space Black women created, sustained, and elevated. Same playbook, different packaging. Reward whiteness, reframe Black excellence as entitlement. And when the money starts flowing, rewrite the story so the real architects get left out of the reward. And that's exactly why this next CBA negotiation is critical. Because this ain't just about salaries. It's about who gets to shape the future of women's basketball. The face might be new, but the blueprint, We've seen it before, and this time we're not looking away.
It's textbook. This is how labor suppression looks in 2025. Use media to shift sympathy. Use ownership structures to stall progress. Use marketing to whitewash the labor force. And hope the fans don't notice until it's too late. But we're not just watching, we're documenting. This series exists because we refuse to let Black women's labor be erased without a fight. And to the fans, we say this: if you stay silent, you're not neutral, you're part of the strategy. Because this isn't about one player or one season. It's about the soul of the league and the people who built it.
If the WNBA wants to grow, cool, let it grow. But don't act like you can evolve by erasing the very women who carried this league on their back. This fight, it ain't just about charter flights and pay bumps. It's about culture, legacy, labor justice. And like we said at PoliSports Tea Time, sports ain't ever just about the game. It's about the power behind the jersey. So if you believe in equity, in labor justice, and in keeping this league true to its roots, stand with the players. Like this episode, share it with 10 friends. Drop a comment and tell us where you stand. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Threads, wherever you tap in for real, unapologetic, justice-driven sports commentary. On the next episode, the economic plantation, inside the WNBA's rigged revenue model. We're breaking down how the CBA was built to financially cap players, how they're locked out of basketball-related income, and how the system mirrors historical labor suppression by design. We're talking ownership, transparency, and a real fight for liberation in women's pro sports through a legal and economic justice lens. And don't just listen, pull up live, bring the whole squad, because fans ain't just spectators, we're part of the movement. And if we stay silent, these same suppression tactics will keep spreading to every league, every player, every platform. Until next time, remember, sports is never just about the games athletes play. It's about the power behind their labor is used and misused. This is Cess, your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies and Political Lil. Stay tuned. Talk soon. We out.